Hello, welcome back. My name is Sifu John Costantine. I'm the chief instructor and founder of AMA Wing Chun Kung Fu. So what I want to do in this video is take you through the basics on how to form the Centreline Guard, which we call Mun Sao and Wu Sao. Stay tuned. Okay, so the Centreline Guard is a two-handed defensive structure placed forward and along the centerline. The front hand is generally referred to as Mun Sao, meaning inquisitive or asking hand, and the rear guard is known as Wu Sao or protective hand, which is pretty much it's your rear guard which is held back, which can change to a punch or a finger strike, but generally most of your defenses are going to be done with the rear guard, hence we call it Wu Sao or rear guard or protecting hand. Okay, so the Centreline Guard's practiced in the basic stance, which allows you to focus on developing the correct shape and structure of the hands. So what I'd like you to do is open the basic stance Yichi Kim Yin Ma and then just pull the hands back to the sides of the chest and just bend your knees and just gently start pulling in with the thighs. And obviously this is going to train the muscles of the legs, and it's also going to give you some core stability so that when you place your hands forward, as long as you're abducting the legs and gripping the back sides, you're going to be strong with your hands. If you're not going to do that, your hands aren't going to be as strong. So open your basic stance and pull the hands back to the sides of the chest. So for the first drill, what I would like you to do is open both hands and then slowly push the left hand forward first. And when it comes into the center line, what I'd like you to do is to follow with the right hand so that you place two hands forward along the center line. And that's the first drill I'd like you to do. So you open both hands, push the left hand forward, followed by the rear guard, and then placing the hands forward along the center line. Okay, so try that first. Okay, so when you're practicing the Centreline Guard and you've got both hands placed forward along the center line, a couple of little tips or principles that I'd like you to follow. I'd like you to make sure that when your hands are forward, both thumbs are bent. And like I said, I've probably said this in previous videos, that if you want to have a really strong arm, a forearm and a strong hand, you need to bend your thumb, and it just hardens up your forearms. So make sure your thumbs are bent. Then I want you to pull the small finger back to the other three fingers, so that again it's going to give you a really strong hand. And more importantly, if you look at the Wing Chun centerline punch, the weak is actually quite the fist is actually quite weak. And therefore what you've got to do is train the small finger so that it's nice and strong. And obviously by practicing the Centreline Guard and obviously bending the thumb and pulling the small finger back to the other three fingers, you're actually strengthening those muscles in the hands, particularly the small finger, so that when you start to form a fist and you hit a wall bag, you're going to have a nice strong fist that can be used to great effect. So that's your front hand. Your rear guard as well, generally what I want you to do is make sure it's protecting your throat and your chin, which is the most important thing. Like I've said, the primary targets for a Wing Chun practitioner are the bridge of the nose, but for me personally, I believe in that if a good placed punch to the side of the throat is a really useful technique. It's not fatal as such, and it really is going to stop someone, and psychologically it's going to make them think about actually fighting with you, because you're picking and choosing targets that the average person on the street would not think about doing, because average people just swing punches. However, when you train in martial arts, you're actually doing what I call target identification, which is you're training to hit soft parts or certain areas on the body with really hard parts in order to get the result you want. Basically is to put somebody out and stop somebody from hurting you. So a good placed punch into the side of the throat, it's an excellent thing to do if self-defense is your priority. So with the rear guard, what I'd like you to do is make sure it's covering at throat height. Make sure your thumb is bent and your small finger's tight. With your forearm, both the forearms, the angles are going to be down to create some kind of deflective surface. Now I know in some Wing Chun organisations they have the hands like that, and some have the hands like that. You can do whatever you like. However, to get a start point, you generally want to have your hands up and your forearms down, so the elbows are going down, so that you're creating a deflective surface. And most importantly, when your hands are up, you want your rear guard in line with your elbow, so that it's not too close to the chest, and it's not too far forward, so that the hand can be trapped. So you generally want to have the hand in the middle of the arm, which is a neutral space, which will stop the hand from getting trapped or pressed or pinned onto the chest, while at the same time you can comfortably hit forward or change guard with the rear guard. So there are a couple of tips for you to kind of practice and adhere to when you look at that first drill. Okay, so another couple of tips that I want you to become aware of when you're practicing the centerline guard. When your hands are placed forward, I want you to keep the rear elbow at about 1 fist distance from the body. At the same time, I want you to make sure that your front arm elbow is about 1.5 fists away from your body as well. So it's not too far where it's creating space, and it's not too short where it can get trapped or pinned as well. So again, we want a short bridge, which is protecting the head and the throat, and obviously allowing you to protect the center line as well. So try those basic principles and we'll move on to the next drill. Okay, so now that you've practiced the centerline guard in the left lead and the right lead independently, what we're going to do is learn how to train or change the centerline guard, the hands, through the center line. And obviously this action is based on one of the techniques of the first form, Tatsao, meaning freeing hand. It's also the basic action for the centerline punch and chain punches, so that if you get this basic action down by changing your guard, you'd have prepared yourself to throw punches in the next session. Changing the centerline guard is a process of replacing one hand in front of the other along the center line. So basically it's the pull and push principle, which is what I say, which is one hand is pulling back whilst the other hand is pushing or thrusting forward. And the way to do that is to have your hands in the center line, and what I'd like you to do is drop the front hand down so that you've cleared a line to push the rear guard through the center, and then push your rear guard past the guard. Simultaneously, the front hand will withdraw underneath the front hand and come back up to protect the center line. So the action looks like this. Okay, try that. Okay, so when you change the centerline guard, what I would like you to do, I'd like you to do 10 repetitions focusing on the rear hand going forward. Then what I want you to do is focus on the front hand withdrawing back and underneath to replace the rear guard. So I want you to do 10 repetitions of pulling the front hand back as the rear guard goes forward. And then when you've got those two skills together, or independently, sorry, when you've got those skills together as an independent action, what I want you to do is to put the movements together simultaneously, so you're developing two-hand awareness, which is one hand goes forward, one hand comes back, and you'll notice the rear guard pops up, so that you're protecting your center line at all times. So please try that. Okay, so let's review what we've got so far. So just a couple of things. When you are standing in this position, when you're changing the centerline guard, I'd like you to do a set of 10 times. So you're going to do 100 guard changes. At the same time, when your hands are back, open your hands, push them forward, do that 10 times, and then open your hands, push this side forward, and do that 10 times. And then pretty much you'll have a workout routine for 2 exercises, which allows you to place the left side forward, followed by the right side placing forward, and then followed by your centerline guard changes. And obviously, the more you do, the quicker you're going to get better at Wing Chun. If you're interested in numbers of how many to do, I encourage my students in my organization to do around 500 to 1,000 guard changes, because that's the quickest way to actually learn this stuff, is to go into the high repetitions. It doesn't take long, it just takes a little bit of commitment and dedication. But as you know, when it comes to practicing martial arts, repetition is the mother of skill, as people say. And generally the secret to learning martial arts is repetition. And that's why I choose high repetition numbers. It takes you 15 minutes and you can just get your 1,000 reps done. Do that 3 times a week and you're going to get results very quickly. So let's quickly recap. The centerline guard is a two-handed defensive structure placed forward and along the centerline. The front hand is called mun sao, meaning ask in hand, and the rear guard is called wu sao, meaning protective hand. The main purpose of placing two hands forward is to create a bridge, or a barrier between you and your opponent that they must pass or penetrate in order to strike you. So there you have it, a very quick and simple video on how to develop the Wing Chun centerline guard. For our next video, what I'm going to do, I'm going to take you through the exercises of the centerline punch, and I'm going to show you specifically how to develop the correct structure, shape and frame of the punch, so that you are basically hitting with good structure and good support before we start developing speed and power. Stay safe, as they say, and train hard. Thank you.